was. So please do tell me. Just put a message if I'm clearly audible or not. Basically, in the last class, I told you everyone that what
Sir,
is
there
basically
is
the
lot of disturbance here, sir.
lot of disturbance.
Yes, sir. Sir, I think because of the mic.
Other disturbance. Ashutosh, Subhashri, Anya, no disturbance is there.
Yes, sir. It's a lot of disturbance, and your voice is also very low.
Now is it okay? Now.
Yes, sir. Now it is okay.
Okay, actually the pin was not plugged in properly. So yeah, coming on to the point. So in the last class, we just discussed about what is the difference between the biological sex and the gender. Okay, so we talked about this. Now in this class, क्या हुआ? हाँ नहीं वो हो गया. हाँ वो माइक पिन प्लग नहीं था सही से. हो गया. So basically in this class we will be moving ahead. So are gender roles same everywhere? So the thing is that the gender roles is whether it is same
Sir,
everywhere
we
or
did
not.
not get your notes, sir.
Sorry, you didn't got the notes. No,
No,
actually
sir.
I asked them, so they have already uploaded it. So you will be able to find it on the note section when you will open your portal, right? Open your page by you logging in using your ID password that has been provided to you by the administration. So after that, in the last, there is one test section, and after that there is one note section. While clicking on that note section, you will be able to get the notes.
Okay, sir. I will
So
check.
yeah, and if there is any problem, so you can contact the administration. Okay, they will be like they will resolve the issue. Okay, so yeah. So are the gender roles same? So the question is that whether the gender role are same everywhere or not. So whether the gender role are basically same in every society, or it basically differs from society to society. So the question is this. So we will be comparing the two societies. One is the Samoa society. I think we have done this. Samoa society and the society of Madhya Pradesh. So basically this case study tells that in Samoa, what is happening is basically the children are not getting the higher education. Okay, so the children, whether girl or boy, are not getting higher education, access to higher education. So that is the main reason why they have to recourse to the local activities, for example fishing activity or any other activities. Okay, so basically the gender role in that society is very flexible. Okay, so by the age of 9 we saw that the boy used to learn fishing and plantation, and the girl continued the child care. But afterwards when they grow up, they also have to basically go for earning, they also have to do the chores. Okay, uh, so cooking mostly done by boys in special cooking houses. So cooking is done by boys, and girl also used to move out of their houses and recourse to fishing activities and earning activities. So we saw this thing that the gender role here are very flexible, right? So gender role were more flexible as compared to many other societies in that society. Okay, but when we see when we basically study about the case study of a school in Madhya Pradesh or a region in Madhya Pradesh, we got to know that school and the public spaces here. So here the boys and the girl went to separate schools. Okay, co-ed schools did not existed here. Girls' school were basically the enclosed courtyard protected from the outside world. Girl just used to come to those places to study and have no exposure to the outer world. Okay, and the boys, so they basically had open playground, freedom to move, but the girls playgrounds were basically very small and very limited. use of street, boys basically used to play idle or use streets freely, but the girls were not allowed to use those streets. They just have to straightforwardly walk to their home. They basically have to move in groups. They cannot walk alone, okay? And they basically fear, always there is a fear in the mind of the girl, that at any point of time they may be harassed or teased by the boys, okay? So public spaces are more accessible to boys than the girls. So we saw this thing there, okay? So what do these examples shows? So these example basically shows that there is no single way of growing up. Gender role basically varies. It varies across time. It varies across culture. It varies across societies. So that we can say that the gender role basically varies. Okay. So that's a point of our discussion. So here, how society creates gender differences. So from the early childhood, we saw that boys are basically given car, gun, balls. Girls are basically given dolls, kitchen set. Okay, boys are basically given outside work, technical role. Girls are basically more given the caregiving or the domestic roles. Okay, so other expectations are also there. The girl basically should speak softly, boys should be tough. Okay, so these are general expectations. Okay, so unequal value of men and women's work. Okay, so basically in our society the value of the men's work is greater, is more than the value of the work that is done by women. What happens in our society is basically the women performs the caregiving task, they perform the managerial work of their household, but their work is undervalued. Their work is not that valued as compared to the work that is done by men outside the houses. Okay, so my mother does not work, the myth. So basically in the story there is a story. So when you read the story you will get to know. But moving on to the main topic, that is why housework is not valued. So basically it is seen that the work that is done by women in their houses is their natural duty. It is seen that what they are doing is a part of their duty that they have to perform. But what men are doing is basically something extra that they are not expected, but basically they they do out of some generosity or something like that. But what women do is basically just seen as a part of their natural duty. So that is a difference. That is why the the economy, the GDP doesn't counts the contribution of women. It basically they do not count the so we take the work done by women as for granted. Okay, we do not value it. Okay, physical and time burden on women. So there is physical and time burden also. So housework involves carrying water, collecting firewood, bending, lifting, standing for hours. So they are just standing. So what happens when men just stand for few hours, for example 7 hour 8 hour, do their job, so that is seen as something very generous or something that is done for the household, done for their wife, children. Okay, but when women do the same duty, when women stand in the kitchen for doing their household work, when women basically perform the same task, even more difficult task, then they are just seen as a basically it is seen as their natural duty. It is not at all valued in our society. Okay, what happens is the women's work and inequality. So the low value of women work is not a personal issue, it's a systematic issue. There in political science there is a saying that personal is not political. What happens is whatever problem the women are facing or were facing, basically it was just seen as domestic issue. But now the political scientists have came forward, the feminists have came forward, who says that the personal issue that are being faced by the women is not just their personal issue, that is political. So personal is political. So earlier what was the misconception was that the if any kind of domestic violence happens with the women inside the four walls of the house, so that is their personal matter. But now that's not at all the personal matter, that is a public matter. Okay, so that is a political matter that has to be dealt by the state. Okay, now moving ahead, is role of constitution and the government. So constitutional morality says, the constitutional principle says that the men and women are must be equally valued. Okay, gender cannot be a reason for any kind of discrimination. Okay, gender action is basically taken by the government or must be taken by the government. It is the duty of the government to basically reduce the gender inequality. Okay, and studies reason for inequality. Okay, and to even take positive steps for providing affirmative action to the women for their upliftment. Okay, so that is basically said by the constitution. All right, moving ahead. So gender, so attached to gender there are certain social expectations. Due to these social expectations there are certain sort of unequal roles that are given by the society to the women. Due to these unequal roles, the role played by men in the society is more valued, while the role played by women in the household is basically undervalued. Due to this overvalue of the work of men and undervalue of the work of women, inequality arises, and due to this inequality there is a need for the state to intervene in this. All right, so this is the thing. Now moving ahead to the next chapter, it is basically the women's work and gender bias. So isn't this the same chapter, Pandita? No, no, no. This isn't the same chapter, right? So fewer. This is very much related chapter. All right. So fewer opportunities and rigid expectations. So basically, we have seen that women are believed to be basically, for example, patient. So it is generally accepted in the society that the women must be patient. For example, when we generally think of nurse, so only women comes to our mind. It is very rare that we see the male nurses, that is nursing assistants. Okay, by just seeing the word nurse, women comes to our mind. Okay, it is generally thought in the society, in the general opinion of the people of the society, that the the caregiving work, the basically empathetical emotional work must be given to the women. Okay, and the rest of the other technical and the scientific work must be given to men. Okay, so what girl often do is basically they get very less support from their families for higher studies, and they are even shifted forward for marriage just after passing out of the school. Okay, and boys basically faces the pressure to choose high paying subjects, for example computer science, for example technical subjects. Okay, and they are expected to behave in socially approved masculine way. Okay, so masculinity and femininity are just the characteristics. Okay, it is also possible that a male person might be having some feminine characteristic, and vice versa is also possible, but society doesn't recognizes this. According to the society, it is only true that a boy must be having all the masculine characteristic and a female must be just having all the feminine characteristics. So basically that is generally expected. Now education can be a tool for change. Okay, earlier what used to happen was reading and writing was very much limited. The girls or women in the society were not given the opportunity to basically read and write. Okay, so girls were largely denied of such opportunities to education. So women's work basically was seen as supportive but not skilled work. So women were generally just seen as to support the others work but not just as a skilled. Okay, हर एक सक्सेसफुल आदमी के पीछे, so behind every successful man there is always a woman. This is a notion that was developed in our society. Do you think this notion is right? No, not at all. Why only behind the success of a man there has to be a woman? Why not behind the success of every woman there has to be a man? Why not vice versa? So that's a wrong notion that has been developed in our society. So what happened in the 19th century? The schools expanded, the education expanded, more and more girls and women were exposed to education. What happened after that? Resistance to girls education continued, and reformers basically challenged the earlier existing notion of such kind in our society. So those reformers basically challenged this notion that this is not going to be happening in our society in time to come. Okay, So some pioneers were there. For example, Pandita Ramabai, Rasundari Devi, Rokeya Sakwat Hussain. So for example, Pandita Ramabai, she was the champion of the women's education, founded a mission in 1898 for teaching literary and practical skills to the women. Rasundari Devi was the first Indian autobiographer who wrote Amar Jeevan. In this basic classic book, she basically explained, yes,
Sir,
yes.
actually, I want to speak, sir, by saying that sentence that behind the success of every man, you are suppressing women by saying that behind.
I'm not able to understand actually what you are saying. Could you please repeat that? Please repeat it once. I'm increasing the volume.
Yes, sir, actually, I was saying that there was a correction to be made in the sentence. That's not behind by saying behind the success of men, you are suppressing women, and that was against women empowerment.
Yeah, but okay, so you are making correction in that statement.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, all right, all right, all right. That's totally acceptable. Yeah, okay, okay, thank you. All right. So anything else?
No, sir.
आज कहाँ लेट हो गए? कहाँ क्या कर रहे हो आप? एमए इन इकोनॉमिक्स कहाँ से? एमडी नोएडा में है. अच्छा. ऑल राइट, गुड लक. कब अभी फाइनल है? लास्ट सेमेस्टर. ओके. So basically, next is Rasundari Devi. So she was the first Indian women autobiographer and learned reading secretly after marriage. She didn't reveal that she is reading still to anyone. Okay. Rokinya Shakwat Hussain. So she was the author of Sultana's Dream. So 1905 imagined a world where women lead in science and innovation. So this was just an imagination, but not just an imagination. She basically imagined the future. Okay, so that was her contribution. Moving ahead is schooling today, progress and gap. So the literary gap is there. We can note this thing that in 2000 sorry, in 1961 men literacy was 40% and women literacy was 15%. When coming on to 2011, men literacy rose to 82%, but women literacy is just at 65%. Okay, so gender gap reduced but still exist. We do understand that, for example, from here it doubled onto 80%, 82% around. Okay, it doubled. Here more than double, because double is just 30%. Here more than double, even 4 times. But still we do understand, we do acknowledge that the gender gap has reduced, but still there is a wide gap. Okay, and the reason behind this gap is basically the poverty. It is basically the distance to the schools, lack of teachers, discrimination, preference for boys education, and all that. Okay, so these are the reasons. Okay, moving ahead. So women's movement. Okay, so let us talk about the women's movement. Collective struggle to improve women's position. So there is a collective struggle on how to improve the position of women. So there is basically areas of change: education, like legal rights, health, protection from violence. So these are the areas basically of where we can improve, where we have to put more emphasis upon. Okay, moving ahead. So this is another chapter, understanding marginalization. So what is marginalization says? So basically, who are, first of all, let us understand who are Adivasis. So basically, Adivasis means original inhabitants of a particular area. Okay. So communities who were traditionally living in close association with the forest were basically categorized as Adivasis. And India's total population has a total 8% of population of India is basically Adivasi. Okay, so Adivasi is not just a single group. Okay, Adivasi community comprises of more than 500 communities and concentrated in the states like Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, MP, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, northeastern states, and Odisha alone has more than 60 tribes. Okay, so that's the data. Now coming on to next is social and cultural features. So Adivasi society has a very little hierarchical structure. Adivasi community do not have hierarchies. Okay, so it is different from the caste based, or we can say jati varna or king ruled societies. So belief system here is that they do not worship the mainstream gods. They worship their ancestors instead of worshipping the god or goddesses. Okay, so they basically worship the nature. Okay, so for example, the natural spirits, mountains, rivers, animals, so they used to worship them. Okay, so they worship the natural spirits. So they are basically influenced by and also influenced Hinduism. So this Adivasi community has influenced Hinduism also, and in turn Hinduism has also influenced them. Okay, even Hindu, Buddhist, Bhakti, ठीक है, Shakta, Christian tradition. So they have inversely influenced Adivasis, and Adivasis have influenced them also. So many Adivasi converted to Christianity in the 19th century. Okay, what languages do they speak? So they have their own languages, and many of those languages are old languages. Okay, so these languages influenced the mainstream Indian languages. Okay, and Santali has been the largest spoken Adivasi language. Okay, that's Santali. Okay, all right. So Santali, even our president of India is basically from this Santhal community only. Okay, so we just saw about what Adivasi is. So Indian government, after getting independence, has recognized the Adivasis under the list of scheduled tribes. So we have officially constituted all the scheduled tribes under, so all the Adivasis under the list of scheduled tribe. So often this group is basically so often grouped with scheduled caste. So basically in the there is one another list also, that is scheduled caste. So basically for reservation purpose, SC and ST community is taken along with. Okay, moving ahead, Adivasis and stereotyping. So what has happened since independence is that we are not able to get out of that basically thinking. Okay, we still think that those Adivasi people, they basically dress traditionally, they dance jhinga lala hu hu type wala hai na. So they dance like that, they have some different festival. So it basically builds a very false image of the Adivasis in our mind. In our mind, the false image is that they are exotic, they are something very different from the mainstream people, they are primitive, they are backward. So these are the general misconceptions in our mind regarding them. Okay, so this stereotyping has resulted in discrimination and exclusion. Okay, due to this stereotyping, it has resulted in discrimination, right? So Adivasis and forest. So forests were basically central to India's civilization. Okay, metal, timber, herbs, animals, water sources. So these were basically central to India's civilizational culture. India's civilization is basically based on these things. Okay, so Adivasi had deeper knowledge of these forests. Adivasis still know much more things about these forests and natural resources than we know. Okay, and Adivasi controls the forest. Okay, but now what happened? Displacement and development happened. post-colonial period, in the post-colonial period, or even during the colonization, what has happened is that we have made forest reserved. We have reserved the forest. The government has basically passed forest laws. They have regulated the mining, dam industries, and basically due to this all thing, massive land alienation has happened. More than 50% of the people who were basically tribals, who were living inside the forest, have been displaced from their original land. 79% displaced people in Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, Karnataka, Chhattisgarh, and are Adivasis basically. National parks and sanctuaries are basically created by first evicting the tribals from their original land. If they stay, they are labeled as encroachers. Even if they stay in their own land, they are labeled as encroachers. So there is no talk about the rights of those who have been displaced by their original land. All right, so this is a very wrong thing that happened with Adivasis. What was the impact of the displacement of the Adivasi people? That is the loss of their land, livelihood, food security, culture and tradition. And the poverty level in them in rural areas is 45%, and urban area is 35%. All right, and the outcome is that in Adivasi there is a lot of malnutrition, low literacy, migration to cities for low paid work. So this all happened with Adivasis. Now connecting Adivasis with marginalization. All right, so economic and social life is deeply connected. The damage due to the modern developmental laws happens to their land, and due to this damage to their land, the damage to their culture and identity also happens. Okay, displacement is very painful, it is very violent in nature, so this also happens. Okay, so minorities and constitutional safeguards. So minority is not just about number, it is also about power and access. We have basically constituted all the Adivasis under ST, but we have never talked about how to give them the access to power. We do not talk about giving them power. Cultural dominance of the majority community has basically contributed to bringing down the influence of minority community. Okay, so constitution provides safeguard to protect their identity, to basically prevent discrimination against them, and to ensure the equality and justice. And judiciary basically enforces the fundamental rights that talks about providing equality to everyone irrespective of their anything. Okay, so basically this is happening. Muslims and marginalization also happens according to the 2011 census. So according to that census, the total population of India, from that 14.2% of the population is the Muslim population. All right, so lower socio-economic indicators, their housing, their education and their employment is basically lower. Sachar Committee 2005 found that Muslim indicates similar to SCs and STs, and even 25% Muslim children between the age of 6 to 14 year never enrolled or dropped out. Okay, so that's a very big problem. Now coming on to literacy and employment. So literacy level is in 2011 in Muslim is 57%. It is lowest among the major religious community that exist in India. Okay, public employment in them is very low. The number of Muslims in as IAS, IPS, IFS, PSUs, banks is very low. That leads to economic insecurity, social exclusion, ghettoization, means they get concentrated to particular areas. Okay, they do not live everywhere, they just live in some areas. Okay, ghettos happens. Okay, prejudice and violence also happens. So due to this, prejudice and violence against them also happens. So that is basically called as marginalization. ये देखो. So for online students, please do tell me, respond if everything is clear to all of you or not. Any
Yes, sir.
problem is
Clear.
there? No problem. Why no problem? Some doubts should be there.
No, sir.
हाँ, सानिया को तो है क्लियर. फिर बाकी शुभश्री. All right, all right, all right. हाँ जी. हाँ, बोलो बोलो। हम्म। 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 हाँ 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 हाँ। हम्म। हम्म। No, they are not willing. They don't want. That's why Naxalite movement is going on. They don't want. They want to live their life peacefully. Adivasis don't exactly want to get integrated in the mainstream. Okay, yes, now such a नहीं नहीं ऐसा नहीं है यार, देखो ऐसा नहीं है, वी थिंक इन रॉन्ग वे एक्चुअली। होता ये नहीं है कि मुस्लिम्स बेसिकली उनको इंटीग्रेट करने की बात ही नहीं है कहीं, है ना। देखो एक्चुअली क्या है, दे आर ऑलरेडी इंटीग्रेटेड। द प्रॉब्लम कम्स इन एरियाज, फॉर एग्जाम्पल जम्मू एंड कश्मीर, है ना। आई नो बिकॉज योर डाउट कम्स फ्रॉम स्टेम्ड फ्रॉम दैट, है ना। बट देयर आर अदर एलिमेंट्स ऑल्सो। See, we cannot compare what is happening in Jammu and Kashmir with the other Muslims, because there, what the issue is, there is external influence. See, just see, have a look at the geography of Jammu and Kashmir. up ऊपर है चाइना, इधर है अफगानिस्तान, इधर है पाकिस्तान। बाउंड्री जो है वो टच हो रही है, जो अभी फिलहाल इंडिया के हाथ में है जम्मू कश्मीर, उससे पाकिस्तान की बहुत बड़ी बाउंड्री है। एक्सटर्नल इन्फ्लुएंस बहुत ज्यादा है, हैवी पैसा, गोला बारूद सब कुछ आ रहा है। रेडिकलाइजेशन के लिए प्रॉपर कैंप्स चलाए जा रहे हैं। तो वहां पे अगर मुस्लिम कम्युनिटीज शोज सम रेसिस्टेंस टू द आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया, तो उसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि रेस्ट ऑफ द मुस्लिम्स आर ऑल्सो लाइक दैट। हाँ, बाकी अगर हम बात करें तो कहीं कहीं जो हम कुछ इंसिडेंट्स देखते हैं मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी में, तो वो इंसिडेंट इज नॉट बेसिकली डायरेक्टेड अगेंस्ट इंडिया, दैट इज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ मास पॉवर्टी। पढ़ लिख लेने के बाद में ये सब बातें सोचना भी जो है वो सही नहीं होता। एक बार जो कम्युनिटी अगर पढ़ लिख लेती है ना, तो ऑल द सोल्यूशन टू ऑल ऑफ दीज प्रॉब्लम इज बेसिकली एजुकेशन। द थिंग हियर इज कि एक बार पढ़ाओ लिखाओ और फिर देखो करिश्मा। ठीक है, पढ़ लिख लेने के बाद में वो सब चीजें नहीं आएंगी। ठीक है, सो दैट्स द थिंग। ठीक है, हाँ जी, चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं। ये बीच में बड़ा खतरनाक आ गया है। चलो ये ऐसे ही समझाता हूं मैं आपको। अच्छा, आई वॉन्ट आंसर फ्रॉम एवरी वन। वॉट डू यू अंडरस्टैंड बाई द मीनिंग ऑफ द वर्ड राइट्स? बताइए, राइट्स क्या होता है?
राइट्स मीन्स हम लोगों के पास जो अधिकार है इन द
अधिकार ही तो राइट्स होते हैं, तो वही तो मैं पूछ रहा हूँ, अधिकार क्या होता है? व्हाट इज अधिकार? टेल मी, व्हाट इज अधिकार? यस, अदर्स ऑल्सो प्लीज डू रिस्पॉन्ड। टेल मी,
So
व्हाट आर
rights
राइट्स?
are basically the claims that allow individuals to live a life of equality and dignity and respect.
इसे लिखा हुआ है क्या कहीं?
No,
देखा
sir.
तो नहीं।
Actually, in the previous polity class, we study about the rights. Sir.
प्रीवियस पॉलिटी कौन सी हुई है आपकी क्लास? अभी अभी तो यही मैं ही पढ़ा रहा हूँ आपको।
विजेंद्र झा सर।
सब राजेंद्र सर ने पढ़ाई
यस
थी।
आई एस। सॉरी टेल मी। या
सब राजेंद्र सर ने पढ़ाई थी।
वो तो पॉलिटी पढ़ा था कि PSIR ऑप्शनल?
सब पॉलिटी अभी तो एनसीईआरटी।
अच्छा तो देखो मेरी बात सुनो। राइट एग्जैक्टली। सो राइट्स आर सम सॉर्ट ऑफ एंटाइटलमेंट्स। ठीक है। फॉर एग्जाम्पल अभी जस्ट टेकिंग एन एग्जाम्पल, सो यू पीपल आर स्टडिंग and taking pocket money या asking for pocket money from your parents is what you can claim on. It's their salary, they cannot, but still they cannot deny you giving that to you, right? So that is basically some sort of claim. Just imagine a circumstance, for example, it's not at all official, it's not written also, मतलब ऐसा specific कहीं written नहीं है, but for example you are standing on a road and there in front of you there comes red light. Okay, you stopped. When the right light turns green, you start on your engine and you just start moving. Whenever a, a person comes from the place where they have red light, they enters into your area, you basically try to obstruct them. Why you try to obstruct them? Because you understand this in a way that for that 30 second, 40 second, or 1 minute, or 1.5 minute, whatever the time be, for that time it is your claim to move from that road, right? Isn't it? So it is somewhat you can claim on, right? It is somewhat you can, for example, this is my mobile. Now, if you will basically touch it without my consent, if you will take it inside your pocket and will just move away, I can claim it over you. Why? Because I have a claim over this, right? So, rights are some sort of claims or entitlements which you can avail against the entire society. ठीक है? Against the entire society. What does that mean? That means, for example, you have been given right to life. Right to life is guaranteed by the is basically mentioned in the fundamental right chapter in the constitution. But for example, just think of a situation when there is no constitution. Still everyone enjoys right to life. Why? It's a different thing that they are not given, but still they enjoy. Why they enjoy? Simply by the fact that they are human being, and human being must enjoy certain rights. So that is basically now right to life. Against whom you enjoy? Against this society you enjoy this right, right? Against the entire society. Means you enjoy right to life. That means your right to life was earlier a threat from someone. Now you enjoy right to life because you had threat, but from whom you had threat? From the entire society you had the threat. Now what you can do is you can basically claim it. है ना? Getting the point? हाँ जी बताइए. Tell me whether you are able to understand or not. Answer it please. Respond, respond, respond. Okay. So basically, yes, definitely, why not? So I am saying that, for example, acha, just have a let's have a look at the lines of the constitution. The constitution, while giving the rights, so in every article, what does it says? It says the state shall not. What does that mean? So the constitution has given you the right. It has given you the right that no one can take away your right to life. It has given you the right. Now, against whom it has given you the right? State. It has given you the right against the state. I have been given the right to my this is my property, and I have right to this. I have a claim over this. This is my right to enjoy the benefits of this property. Now, against whom I have been given this right? Against the entire society, that no one from the society can take away this mobile from me. So rights are basically those claims or entitlements that are given to the people, that are given to everyone, okay, irrespective of their caste, class, religion, race, gender, or anything. So basically against the society, so that no other person from the society can take away this. Getting the point? Others also please do respond. All right. So basically, rights are some sort of entitlements or claims. For example, you have the right to freedom of speech and expression under Article 19. What does that mean? That no one in the society, specifically the state, cannot stop you from expressing yourself. Right? So in this chapter, we will be understanding few cases of the denial of rights. Then we will understand why rights are important. Okay. First case is basically the case of Guantanamo Bay prison. So basically what happened in this prison that is located in Guantanamo Bay. In this prison, what US Army did after 9/11 attack, US Army basically arrested more than 600 people here secretly without telling anyone. What they did was they did not even inform the families of the people who were arrested by the US officials. They did not even informed the person who are arrested of the ground of their arrest, of like why they have been arrested. They even did not told the media, international or the national media, about this news. This came to the limelight only after Amnesty International, which is an international NGO, protested against this. Okay, so what happened was, so basically this case shows that the US Army denied 600 people of their right. What kind of right? The right to know about the ground of their arrest, the right, basically a human right to be heard of. They didn't heard to anyone. They didn't even told their families. So this was a basically the case of denial of right. Okay. Now without the right, even the innocent people could have been arrested in this case, and basically they were denied their rights. Now, next case is basically the case of citizens' rights in Saudi Arabia. So, Saudi Arabia is another example where we can see that the Saudi Arabia is basically ruled by a hereditary king. The hereditary king is basically not elected. Now, not being elected, the king only controlled the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary in the country. The political parties were basically not allowed to be formed. Media freedom there was completely restricted. No basically freedom of religion was there. So basically citizens must be either Muslim, or after coming to Saudi Arabia they will just have to profess the way of Muslims. Okay, so women were basically had to bear the social restriction. Gender inequality was there. So here we came to another conclusion, that where the power of a state is just concentrated in a single authority, that is the king only. So in that case we can say that we can see the abuse of power happens. The power, the people who are enjoying the power starts abusing the power, right? This is another case. Now coming on to one more case, that is the ethnic massacre in Kosovo. In Kosovo, what was there? So there was Albanian majority, but the ruler was a Serbian leader. There were two communities, Albanian and Serbian. The Serbian leader was Slobodan Milosevic. Okay, so he came to power through election. Now what happened? The government that was formed by the Serbian leader Milosevic, it started suppressing the rights of the Albanian people. Getting the point? He was elected by elections only, but after coming to power, his government started basically neglecting the rights of the Albanian people. So violence happened. Now due to violence, several killings happened. International intervention came to stop the massacre. But the core lesson that we can learn from this particular case is that in democracy, where the rights of the people are not guaranteed, even no one is safe, neither the majority nor the minority. Getting the point? One another lesson that we just learned from this case. So what would victim wish for? So the prisoners in Guantanamo Bay, the women in Saudi Arabia, and the Albanians in Kosovo, they desired security. They wanted security of their life. They wanted dignity. They wanted themselves to be treated with dignity. They wanted fair play. Getting the point? Now, what they would want? They would want that no arrest must have been there without proper measures and protections. Everyone must be given a fair chance to defend themselves, and real enforcement of protection must be there, not just the written promises. And punishment for those who violated these protections must be there. So these were the general expectations of the people. Okay, so this we can call that these expectations were the basic spirit of their rights, right? So meaning of idea of rights. So now we can come to a conclusion that what are rights? Rights are basically the claims of person over other individuals, over the society, and even over the government. Now you people just tell me one thing: who all do you think can take your rights? Now you tell me, you people just told me that the rights are the claims. Rights are claims, right? So now just tell me one thing. Now you have claim in form of your rights. Now who all can take your rights? You have claim that you must be having right to life. You have claim that you must be having right to freedom of speech and expression. You must be having equality. You must be having this and that. Now what do you think? Who can take away these rights that you have, that you enjoy? Tell me.
Sir,
Answer.
I think the state can take our rights because the state is providing that certain claims to us.
No. State is not providing. The state is not providing. It is already been provided by the constitution in India. Okay. Providing to is by constitution. But who all can take? What do you think? Sania? Subhasri? Who all can take your rights?
The society,
And
by doing discriminations and
okay,
like
right. And Subhasri? Who all can take your rights?
Read Constitution, sir.
Sorry?
Constitution, sir.
How can constitution take your right? How can constitution take your rights?
Sir, at one day they gave rights to
Sorry?
rights, sir, but
Sorry? See, listen. I'm asking that you are saying that rights are certain claims, right? Certain claims, for example, if this is my property, that then I have a claim over this. That's my right. No, rights, making it very simple. So, for example, this is my property. Now I have a claim over this property. You cannot use this property without my consent, right? So this is my claim. I told you, you have a claim over the earnings of your family for your education, right? You have a claim over that. So we have a claim over these things. So these claim are our rights. So these claims faces threat from the society in general. The people living in the society can take away these claims. Anyone can from outside can come, enter inside and can take away this from other individual. The student sitting here, you can take it, right? Ha, matlab, possible na? You can take other individual, right? So basically, and the state, the government can ever declare at any point of time, it can declare that every property in the state belongs, every property in India belongs to state. They can take away your right. They can take away your claim, right? So we faces this threat from individuals, society, and state. Yeah. Yes. Tell me, who can take? Market. Market comes in society only. It's called as society. It will come in society only. So that is why the claim of person is guaranteed against, yeah, over these things, the state, individual, society, right? Now are you able to understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I try to say rights are again taken by how can right be taken by constitution? Constitution gives you right. It doesn't takes the rights. It gives you right by mentioning the rights inside it. Let her write. Tanya, you wanted to say something? Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. That's a okay. So that's a misconception. The government and constitution are two very different things. Constitution basically comes and the government is created by the constitution. Government is the creation of the constitution. The constituent assembly makes the constitution. Afterward, according to the constitution, election commission is formed. Now the election commission conducts the elections. It selects those representatives that gains the majority of the votes. Those representatives then, according to the bodies that are constituted by the constitution, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, they goes there, they sit there, and then they form the government. That means the executive, right? So government is the creation of constitution. Constitution gives you right, it can never take away the rights, right? Getting the point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hmm. So moving ahead, so rights are basically the claims of person over other individual, over the society, over the government. So people wants to live without fear, without humiliation, with respect and safety. Just give me a second. I'm just coming. एसी ऑफ करने के लिए बोल देता हूँ एक बार. Yes. So the people wants to live without fear, without humiliation, and with respect and safety. And the right exists only when our claims are do not harmed by others. What if your claim over the society, over the state are harmed? So in that case, that will not be a right. Okay. Next concept is rights and duties. So these are two interlinking things. Okay. So whenever we say that we have a claim over others, so that basically say that means we just don't have the claim, but also we have a duty to be followed. It is not like people just enjoys the claim. Okay, Article 51A of the Indian Constitution highlights the duties that has to be performed by the citizens, right? So it is both are interrelated. A right always has a duty accompanied by it. If you are saying that you enjoy right to life or you enjoy equality, you will also have some duties in the state. For example, respecting the sanctity of the state, respecting our cultural heritage, respecting the national flag, national anthem, our history, our historical circumstances uh, by which we evolved. Okay, so you also have those duties, right? So one must enjoy the right but also perform the duties. Okay, so here for example, the Serbs in Yugoslavia could not claim the entire country only for themselves. It was also wrong, no? They must think, they must have thought that the Yugoslavia belongs to Serbs as well as Albanians, right? They cannot, the Serbs cannot say that we will be the only community holding the entire resources of the country. That was wrong, right? So accompanied by rights we have duties also. Okay, so rights are socially recognized. So who recognizes rights? Rights never developed in isolation. Rights are basically the result of evolution. ठीक है, राइट्स जो है धीरे धीरे इट स्लोली गेट्स डेवलप्ड. So rights are meaningful only when the society recognizes it. What if you say that there is a right but the society says that there can never be such kind of right? So that right will never be recognized in the society, because society only, so those rights are only basically recognized which are accepted by the society, or we can say recognized by the society. So every right must be recognized by the society. All right. So because of this, right changes with time and place. Okay. And earlier women's right to vote was denied, but today denying the women the right to vote is appears to be unjust. Okay. So rights and law. So now coming on to this point, the rights and laws. So what happens that in our society we see this thing, that when social claims are written into law, they become enforceable rights. So what does enforceable right means? So it means rights, I told you, are always there. Rights are always there. But when such rights are codified into, इनको जब एक जगह, when we write these rights, when we codifies these rights at a particular place, so basically these when these claims are codified, it becomes law. And when it becomes law, it becomes enforceable. What does enforceability means? When these rights are then denied to us, we can go to the court. What does enforceable means? Enforceable means basically if these rights are not basically given to us, we can approach the court for their reinstatement. आ रही है बात समझ में? That is called as justiciability, or we can say enforceability. Okay, all right. Any doubt? Yes.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, we can approach to the court for only fundamental rights or any right.
Basically, you can approach to court for any right. But the point here to be noted here is, if you want to directly approach Supreme Court, then Article 32 says that for directly approaching our Supreme Court, the criteria is that the fundamental right must have been violated. But there is one another thing, that under Article 226, you can directly approach High Court for the violation or for enforcement of fundamental right as well as other rights also. Arivasan mein. And this is a basic distinction. That's why it is said that this jurisdiction under Article 226 of High Court is larger than Supreme Court. In Supreme Court under Article 32, directly you can approach, but for the reinstatement of fundamental right only, not for other ordinary rights. Okay? Hanji, clear? All right, all right, all right. Ashutosh,
Yes, sir.
is this clear? हाँ हाँ बोलो और कुछ.
No, sir, I am clear.
Okay, all right. So moving ahead. So without the laws, rights remains only moral or natural right. So if there is no law, then also we can say that because we are human being, we must be enjoying certain rights. You will still enjoy the rights, but without the law, there will be no mechanism for you to enjoy those rights. Aribasan mein, there will be no mechanism on how to enjoy those rights. So with this, with proper codification, with laws, there develops a mechanism. Clear? So that's the thing. Now violation of right, when the government basically do not respect the rights, do not respect the rights of the citizens, okay, so that is basically called as violation or infringement of the rights. Okay, and in this case, in such cases, the citizens can approach to the court for the protection of their rights. Okay, so essential features of rights. So what are the essential features of rights? So for any claim to be called as a right, it must have three qualities. For anything, whatever you call as a right, okay, so it must fulfill three criterias. The first criteria is reasonableness. Okay, reasonableness. So that means every right must be reasonable. What does this reasonable right means? It means that by using our reason, it must be right. By the application of mind, by the application of reason, it should be right. Okay, so ये सही होना चाहिए. It should be just by the application of our reason. Okay, so it must be recognized by the society. Whatever is not recognized by the society is very difficult to be categorized as right. Okay, when society does not recognizes that particular thing, so in that case it is very difficult for that particular thing to be called as a right. Okay, and also it must be sanctioned by law. Okay, there should be a law to recognize that right. Okay, so the right without a particular law will not be valid. Okay, so for a right to be called, it must be accompanied by law. Okay, there should be a particular law for the enforcement of that right. Okay, now why do we need right? Read it. Padho isko. This I just told you. Read this slide, which says that we need right for our survival. Why do we need right? We need right for our survival and the proper functioning of democracy. The democracy in the country will not be able to function if the rights are not given to us, right? So rights and democratic participation. So in democracy, every citizen must be having certain rights. For example, the right to vote, even the right to contest the election, free and fair election. So citizens also need basically the freedom of expression, the freedom to form political parties, the freedom to take part in political activities. So these are all the rights that we must have. Okay, so democracy is not based on the credential of only the wills of majority. Democracy basically rests on the credential that the rights of the minority community must also be respected. बात आ रही है समझ में? So the rights of the minority community must also be taken into consideration. ठीक है? क्लियर है ये बात? आपकी क्लास कितने बजे तक है? 5:10.
The 5:10.
Okay, all right, all right. So basically it says that the एक second बस. हाँ. So it says that the minority community must also be respected, right? So the rights of the minority community must also be taken into consideration. Okay. So the rights as safeguard. So rights acts as guarantees. Okay. So it is a guarantee on basically it is also categorized as a shield for the weak. Okay. So when rights are enjoyed by the weak community, they do not have to worry much. Okay, when rights are there, the minority community can basically live freely, okay, without any apprehensions. Okay, so rights against the government. So ideally the government should protect the rights of the people. But what happens in the society, in the modern democratic societies, the right are given against the government only. Getting the point? The rights are given against the government. Okay, so that's a very interesting thing. Means the government ideally must be there for the protection of the rights of the people, but the major and the worst threat that the country can ever witness is from the government itself. Okay, so that's a thing. Now rights in the constitution. So in most democratic constitution, the basic rights, for example the fundamental rights, are mentioned in the constitution itself. Okay, so these becomes the constitutional rights. What are the characteristics of the constitutional rights? So the characteristics of constitutional rights is that it limits the power of the government, and it also allows the citizens to seek legal protection if rights are violated. Okay, now let us talk about the fundamental rights. So now we had a very long discussion on what does right stands for. So you people also please now tell me, what does fundamental right stands for? Tell me.
Sir, the basic necessities.
Basic necessity is the right. What is the meaning of
The,
fundamental right?
the normal rights are necessities, but fundamental rights are basic necessities.
Hmm. Right. Acha. Others also
And
please
we
tell.
can also call it by giving humans freedoms that they deserve.
Acha.
The freedom to an extent level.
That's why it is called as fundamental. So Varshi, you tell. Tell, kuch bhi, whatever you know, whatever you think.
Fundamental rights for individual dignity and liberty, sir. So that's fundamental right.
Right, right. So the thing here is, one thing that needs to be, because they are basic rights. Okay, right, basic, है ना? देखो, for example, for a building to stand tall, what is required? The base is required, the foundation is required. See, just giving you an example. Okay, for example, this is a pen, or the basically pen that we use in the board. Okay, this can be broken. Will this last for 10 years? No, this will not last for 10 years. This will at max last for more 6 months, 1 year. That's it. Okay. Now, why when this will just last for this long, then is there something related to this that will never end? Tell me. For example, this is a box that carries the specs. Now this box is already broken because this has no grip. This is already broken. This box will not be there after, I think, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. But there is something that will always remain. The idea. The idea that there can be a container that will store a specs. This idea will never change. This idea will never end. Why? Because idea is fundamental. Because idea is fundamental. Now, the point of discussion here is, then how can fundamental right be basically fundamental? How can rights be fundamental? Because rights can always be changed. Parliament, by using Article 368, they can amend the rights. Then why do we associate the word fundamental with rights?
Sir,
Listen. No,
sir,
the still, just 1 minute. No, the rights are still fundamental. Why? Because these rights are most essential rights for a person to live a dignified life. Because these rights are fundamental. These rights are fundamental because these rights are required for the development of the personality of an individual. Because these are most essential. That's why it is called as fundamental. Why fundamental? Because most essential. Getting the point? So,
Yes, sir.
because of the essence of these rights, these are fundamental. Without which we cannot imagine the dignified life of any individual. Without which we cannot even imagine the existence of human being as human being. There will be no difference between human being and animals without these rights. Human will start living the life of animals only without such rights. Understanding? Anji. So, in India, Ashutosh, you were saying something?
sir, I was saying that your statement was correct. The Indian constitution is flexible, but according to Indian constitution, Constitution, the basic ideas cannot be changed.
That though is okay. That what you are saying is absolutely okay. The basic, no, that's not called basic idea. That's called as basic feature. After the Keswanand Bharati judgment, okay, the basic feature cannot be changed. But I'm not saying that. Don't you think the words of the fundamental right can be changed? Definitely, the words of the fundamental right can be changed. Fundamental right are amendable. Then if they are amendable, then why it is called as fundamental? It is still called as fundamental because it is most essential for for living a person a dignified life. For a
Thus, the
person,
basic idea cannot be changed behind that.
ठीक है, that's also right. I'm not disputing that fact. It's 100% right. Basic idea can never be changed. हाँ सही बात है कि people must get fundamental rights. But again the question, why fundamental? What fundamental? Meaning of fundamental we are saying. If you are saying that meaning of fundamental is that it cannot be changed, the idea of fundamental right cannot be changed, no, that's not true. I agreed to your point that it's fundamental, but meaning of fundamental. Fundamental right as an idea cannot be changed, but what fundamental? Most essential, the most important, that's fundamental. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So from this slide, we will be continuing in the next class. Okay. Until then, bye. Take care. Any doubt? Any problem?
No, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, welcome. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, welcome.